Jack Miller had never expected to find anything unusual in the old warehouse district. The abandoned buildings stood like skeletons against the night sky, most of them scheduled for demolition next month. As a night security guard, his job was simple: patrol, report, and stay awake. Nothing more. Tonight was different. A strange blue light flickered from one of the warehouses that should have been empty. Jack checked his watch. 2:14 a.m. He adjusted his flashlight and approached cautiously. "Hello? Anyone there?" His voice echoed through the empty space. The blue light grew stronger as he moved deeper into the building. Then he heard a soft whimper, almost too quiet to notice. Not human, but not quite animal either. Jack followed the sound to a corner of the warehouse where the blue light was brightest. What he found made him drop his flashlight. A clear container, similar to a glass box but made of some material Jack had never seen before, stood against the wall. Inside was a girl, or at least, something that looked like a girl. Her skin had a pale blue tint that seemed to glow from within. Her hair was white as snow, floating around her head as if she were underwater. Most striking were her eyes, large, completely black, with no whites visible. She was trapped. Tubes and wires connected to her arms and neck. When she saw Jack, she pressed her hands against the container wall, her face a mixture of fear and hope. "Holy!" Jack whispered, picking up his flashlight with shaking hands. "What are you?" The creature pointed to a panel on the side of the container. Strange symbols glowed on its surface, nothing like any language Jack had ever seen. But one symbol flashed red, repeated the universal enough to understand as a warning or alert. Jack hesitated. This was beyond his pay grade. He should call someone: the police, the military, anyone with the authority to handle whatever this was. But as he reached for his phone, the creature's expression changed to pure terror. She shook her head frantically and pointed again at the panel. "You want out?" Jack asked, knowing she probably couldn't understand him. To his surprise, she nodded. Against his better judgment, Jack approached the panel. The red flashing symbol seemed important. He pressed it gently. A mechanical voice spoke in a language he didn't recognize, then switched to heavily accented English. "Warning. Containment system failing. Specimen will expire in 30 Earth minutes without intervention." Expire. The word hit Jack like a punch to the gut. Whatever she was, they were keeping her alive with these systems. And those systems were failing. "What do I do?" Jack asked the air, not expecting an answer. The voice responded. "Enter authorization code to initiate emergency release protocol." Jack looked at the alien girl. Her black eyes were wide, pleading. If he left her, she would die. If he helped her, well, he had no idea what would happen. "I don't have a code," Jack said. The machine hummed. "Emergency override available. Place hand on scanner for DNA registration." A small panel slid open, revealing what looked like a handprint scanner. Jack hesitated again. This could be a trap. This could be dangerous. This was definitely illegal. The alien girl made that whimpering sound again. Her glow was fading. Jack placed his hand on the scanner. Pain shot through his palm as something pricked his skin. "DNA sample acquired," the mechanical voice announced. "Override accepted. Warning, this action is irreversible." The container began to hiss. The front panel slid open, and the tubes connected to the alien girl detached automatically. She stumbled forward, weak and disoriented. Jack caught her before she fell. She was light in his arms, weighing no more than a child despite being nearly his height. Her skin was cool to the touch, and up close, he could see thin lines like circuitry running just beneath the surface. She looked at him with those impossible black eyes and touched his face with trembling fingers. "Thank you," she said in perfect English, her voice soft and melodic. Jack nearly dropped her in shock. "You can speak?" "I learned from listening," she explained. "I need to leave this place. They will come back soon." "Who? Who will come back? What are you? Why were you?" She placed a finger against his lips. "No time. Please help me. The sound of vehicles outside made them both freeze. Heavy engines, multiple vehicles approaching fast. They're already here, she whispered, fear making her blue glow pulse brighter. Please, I can't go back in that box. I'll die. Jack made a split-second decision. Come with me. I know a back way out. As they slipped away through the shadows of the warehouse district, Jack couldn't help wondering what he'd gotten himself into. He'd just freed an alien girl from some kind of containment. People were clearly looking for her. And most concerning of all, what secret was she hiding that made her so valuable they'd keep her trapped like that? Whatever the truth was, Jack knew his ordinary life had just become extraordinarily complicated. Jack's apartment wasn't much, a small one-bedroom on the edge of town, but right now, it was the safest place he could think of. The alien girl sat quietly on his worn couch, her blue glow casting soft shadows across the room. We should be safe here for now, Jack said, closing the blinds. He'd called in sick to work, claiming food poisoning. His boss hadn't been happy, but Jack had bigger problems. The alien girl watched him with those black eyes. Thank you for helping me, she said. Her voice sounded more natural now, less mechanical than before. You can start by telling me who you are, Jack said, taking a seat across from her. And what you are. She looked down at her hands. The circuitry-like patterns beneath her skin pulsed with her breathing. My name is Lyra, she said finally. I come from a world you would call Proxima Centauri b. You're actually an alien? Jack had suspected it, of course, but hearing her confirm it made his head spin. How did you end up here? In that container? Lyra's glow dimmed slightly. I was captured. My ship crashed near this planet 3 of your Earth years ago. A group of humans found me and took me to a research facility. They wanted to study me. She looked up at him. They were not kind in their methods. Jack felt sick. I'm sorry. Not all humans are like them, Lyra said, studying his face. You proved that. So who were those people who came back for you? Government? Military? They call themselves the Foundation. They hunt beings like me who visit Earth. They believe we are a threat. Her expression hardened. They were transporting me to a new facility when something went wrong with the vehicle. They stopped at that building temporarily. Jack ran a hand through his hair. And now they're looking for you. Yes. They will not stop. A thought occurred to Jack. Can you contact your people? Get help? Lyra shook her head. The technology in the containment unit suppressed my abilities. I need time to recover. Abilities? What abilities? Before she could answer, a sharp knocking at the door made them both freeze. Jack motioned for Lyra to stay quiet and peered through the peephole. 2 men in plain black suits stood outside. They looked official and dangerous. Mr. Miller? We're with the Department of Homeland Security. We need to speak with you regarding an incident at your workplace. Jack's heart pounded. How had they found him so quickly? Just a minute, he called, trying to keep his voice steady. He turned to Lyra and whispered, Hide in the bathroom. Don't make a sound. She nodded and moved silently across the room. Once she was hidden, Jack opened the door, leaving the chain on. Can I see some ID? He asked. The taller man held up a badge. It looked legitimate, but Jack had no way to verify it. We understand you were working at Warehouse 17 last night, the man said. We're investigating a break-in. May we come in? I called in sick today. Food poisoning, Jack said. Bad takeout. This will only take a moment of your time, sir. The shorter man leaned closer. We have reason to believe you may have witnessed something unusual. Something that could pose a national security risk. Jack kept his expression neutral. I didn't see anything unusual last night. Just the usual empty buildings. The men exchanged glances. Are you sure about that, Mr. Miller? Security footage shows you entering Warehouse 17 at approximately 2:14 a.m. Jack's blood ran cold. They had been watching. I heard a noise. Checked it out. Nothing there, he said. The taller man's expression hardened. Mr. Miller, harboring an extraterrestrial entity is a federal offense. If you're protecting something, you're putting yourself and others at risk. I don't know what you're talking about, Jack said firmly. Now if you'll excuse me, I really need to get back to bed. Like I said, food poisoning. The shorter man placed a business card in the door crack. If you remember anything, call this number immediately. For your own safety. After they left, Jack locked the door and leaned against it, breathing hard. Lyra emerged from the bathroom, her expression grim. They found us, she whispered. We need to leave, Jack said. They'll be back with a warrant, or worse. There's something I need to tell you first, Lyra said. Her voice had changed, becoming more urgent. The reason they want me so badly. What is it? Lyra's black eyes seemed to swirl with stars. I'm not just any visitor from another world, Jack. I'm a guardian. My people sent me here to protect Earth. Protect it from what? From an invasion that has already begun. Lyra's glow intensified. The Foundation isn't what they seem. They're already compromised. Jack stared at her, realization dawning. The secret you were hiding. Yes, she said. I was sent here to save your world. And now, I need your help to do it. An invasion? Jack's voice was barely above a whisper. What kind of invasion? Lyra moved to the window, carefully peeking through the blinds. We need to leave first. They will return with more agents. Jack grabbed a backpack and stuffed it with essentials, clothes, his emergency cash, a first aid kit, and some food. His mind raced with questions, but survival came first. My friend Tom has a cabin in the mountains. We can go there, at least for a few days. Lyra nodded. We must avoid main roads. They will be watching. Jack's old pickup truck was parked behind the building. He gave Lyra a baseball cap and one of his hoodies to cover her glowing skin. With her hair tucked away and head down, she could almost pass for human at a distance. They slipped out the back exit and drove away just as two black SUVs pulled up to the front of the apartment complex. That was close, Jack said, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. Now tell me what's going on. What invasion? Lyra's black eyes reflected the passing streetlights. There is another species, one we call the Shadows. They don't invade with ships or weapons like in your movies. They take over from within. What do you mean? They're parasites. They attach to hosts, human hosts, and slowly take control. The host remains conscious but unable to resist. From the outside, no one can tell the difference. Jack felt a chill run down his spine. And the Foundation? Most of them have already been infected. That's why they kept me contained. The Shadows fear my kind because we can detect them and remove them from hosts. Jack took a back road heading toward the mountains. So these Shadows. How many are there? I don't know exactly. Before I was captured, I detected hundreds, maybe thousands. They target people in positions of power first, government officials, military leaders, wealthy business people. And no one knows about this? Lyra shook her head. The takeover is silent. Careful. Patient. By the time humans realize what's happening, it will be too late. Jack tried to process the information. It sounded like something from a science fiction novel, yet here he was, driving an actual alien to a remote cabin to hide from government agents who might not be human anymore. Why Earth? He asked finally. Why us? Your planet is perfect for them, the right atmosphere, compatible biology, and a species that hasn't developed the technology to detect them. Lyra paused. And there are so many of you. Billions of potential hosts. They drove in silence for a while, the reality of the situation sinking in. There's something else you should know, Lyra said eventually. The reason the Foundation wants me so badly isn't just because I can detect the Shadows. It's because of what else I can do. As she spoke, she raised her hand. The circuitry-like patterns beneath her skin glowed brighter, and suddenly, small objects in the truck, a coin, Jack's phone, the rearview mirror, began to float. Jack swerved in surprise before regaining control. What the? My people evolved differently than yours, Lyra explained, gently lowering the objects. We developed abilities your science would consider impossible. Telekinesis is just one of them. What else can you do? Heal, communicate telepathically with my kind, generate energy shields, but my powers were weakened during captivity. I need time to recover fully. Jack's mind was reeling. And the Foundation, they want to study these abilities. Weaponize them? The humans did. The shadows want to eliminate me. I'm one of the few beings who can expose them and fight them. As dawn broke over the mountains, Jack turned onto a dirt road almost hidden by trees. We're almost at the cabin. We should be safe there, at least for now. Suddenly, Lyra grabbed his arm. Stop the truck. Jack slammed on the brakes. What? What is it? Lyra's eyes were wide, her glow pulsing rapidly. We're not alone. Ahead, parked near the cabin, was a familiar black SUV. How did they find us? Jack whispered. Lyra's expression was grim. They didn't follow us. They were expecting us. Tom. Jack realized with horror. They got to Tom. The front door of the cabin opened, and Tom stepped out. He looked exactly like Jack remembered, same friendly face, same easy smile. But Lyra was trembling beside him. He's one of them, she whispered. I can see the shadow inside him. Tom waved casually, as if greeting old friends for a weekend getaway. What do we do? Jack asked, his hand hovering over the gearshift, ready to reverse. We can't outrun them forever, Lyra said. Her glow intensified. It's time I stopped running and started fighting back. She opened the truck door before Jack could stop her. Wait, he called. You said your powers were weakened. Lyra looked back at him, determination in her black eyes. Then I'll need your help, Jack. Humanity needs to know what they're up against. Are you with me? In that moment, Jack realized he had a choice: drive away and pretend none of this was happening, or stand with an alien who had come to protect his world. He stepped out of the truck. I'm with you, Jack, Tom called out, his voice friendly and familiar. Didn't expect to see you here. Who's your friend? Jack stepped in front of Lyra protectively. How did you know we were coming, Tom? Tom's smile didn't waver. What do you mean? I always come up here on weekends. Great minds think alike, huh? 3 more men emerged from the cabin, all wearing black suits like the agents who had visited Jack's apartment. Their faces were expressionless, their movements stiff. Your friend is lying, Lyra whispered. The shadow inside him is still learning to mimic human behavior. Jack nodded slightly. What's the plan? I need to get closer. I can remove the shadow from your friend, but it's dangerous. The others will attack as soon as they realize what I'm doing. I'll distract them, Jack said. He raised his hand in greeting. Hey, Tom. Sorry for dropping by without calling. My phone died, and we needed to get away for a while. Jack moved forward casually, motioning for Lyra to stay back. The suited men tensed, hands moving toward their jackets. No problem at all, Tom said. His eyes flickered briefly to Lyra, a flash of recognition and hatred crossing his face. Why don't you both come inside? Actually, Jack said, could you help me grab something from the truck first? Brought some beers. As Tom approached, Jack could see something wasn't right. His friend's movements were too precise, his blinks too regular. It was Tom's body, but something else was pulling the strings. When Tom was just a few feet away, Jack lunged forward, tackling him to the ground. Now, Lyra! The suited men immediately drew weapons, not standard firearms, but strange devices that hummed with energy. Before they could fire, Lyra raised both hands. A wave of blue energy erupted from her palms, knocking the men backwards. She rushed to Jack and Tom, who were wrestling on the ground. Tom's strength was unnatural. He pinned Jack easily, hands closing around his throat. Hold him still, Lyra shouted, her entire body glowing bright blue now. Despite the crushing pressure on his windpipe, Jack managed to lock his arms around Tom, holding him in place. Lyra pressed her palm against Tom's forehead. Her black eyes turned completely white as energy flowed from her into Tom. Tom screamed, an inhuman, bone-chilling sound. His body convulsed violently. Black mist began seeping from his eyes, nose, and mouth, swirling around Lyra's hand. She contained it in a sphere of blue energy. "Get back!" she warned Jack. He released Tom and scrambled away just as Lyra compressed the energy sphere. The black mist inside writhed before disintegrating with a high-pitched shriek. Tom collapsed, unconscious but breathing. His face looked peaceful for the first time. "Is he?" Jack began. "He's free," Lyra said. "The shadow is gone." The suited men were recovering, raising their weapons again. Lyra swayed slightly, the energy expenditure clearly taking a toll. "We need to run," Jack said, supporting her. "You're too weak." "No." Lyra steadied herself. "This ends now." She faced the agents, raising her arms. The ground beneath them trembled. Rocks, dirt, and fallen branches rose into the air, swirling around her like a tornado. With a thrust of her hands, she sent the debris flying toward the men, forcing them to take cover. Using the distraction, Jack helped Tom to his feet. His friend was groggy but conscious. "Jack? What's happening?" Tom looked confused, like someone waking from a long dream. "I'll explain later. Can you walk?" Tom nodded weakly. Jack guided him toward the truck while Lyra continued to hold off the agents. One of them managed to fire his weapon, a pulse of energy that narrowly missed Lyra's head. She responded by ripping a tree from the ground with her telekinesis and sending it crashing between the agents and the truck, creating a barrier. "Get in!" Jack called. Lyra backed toward them, maintaining her focus on the fallen tree, which she set ablaze with a touch. The fire spread quickly, creating a wall of flames. Once they were all in the truck, Jack sped away, tires kicking up dirt and gravel. "They'll follow us," Lyra said, breathing heavily. "And I've used too much energy. I need time to recover." Tom stared at her in disbelief. What are you?" "She's a friend," Jack said firmly. "And she just saved your life." Lyra's glow was dimming, her strength clearly fading. "Jack, there's something else you need to know. Something important." "What is it?" "The shadows have a central consciousness, a hive mind. If we can locate it and destroy it, all the shadows will die." "Where is it?" Jack asked. Lyra's eyes fluttered as she fought to stay conscious. "That's what the Foundation was trying to learn from me. I know where it is, but I can't reach it alone." "Where?" Jack pressed. "It's hidden beneath the city," Lyra whispered. "Under the place you humans call Area 51. As she spoke the words, Lyra's eyes closed, her body going limp as exhaustion overtook her. Jack exchanged a look with Tom in the rearview mirror. "You believe any of this?" Tom touched his forehead where Lyra had drawn out the shadow. "I remember everything now, being trapped in my own body, watching as that thing controlled me. They're planning something big, Jack. Something that happens tomorrow." Jack gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Then we don't have much time." The desert stretched endlessly before them. Jack had been driving for hours, taking back roads and avoiding main highways. In the passenger seat, Lyra remained unconscious, her blue glow faint but steady. Tom slept in the back, his body still recovering from being freed from the shadow. Jack's mind raced with questions. Area 51, the most heavily guarded military installation in America. How were they supposed to get in? And even if they did, how could they possibly find and destroy some alien hive mind? A soft moan from Lyra drew his attention. Her eyes fluttered open, the black orbs focusing slowly on him. "How long was I out?" she asked weakly. "About 5 hours," Jack said. "How are you feeling?" "Better." She sat up straighter. "My energy is returning." "Good, because we need a plan. Area 51 isn't exactly a place we can just walk into." Tom leaned forward from the back seat. I might be able to help with that. Jack glanced at his friend in the rearview mirror. How? When that thing was inside me, I had access to its memories. The shadows communicate with each other. I know things, security codes, patrol schedules, underground entrances. Lyra turned to look at him. The shadow inside you was high-ranking. Tom nodded grimly. It was using me to coordinate other hosts in the region. They're planning to activate something called the beacon tomorrow at sunset. Once it's active, it will signal their main fleet. Fleet? Jack's grip tightened on the wheel. There are more coming? Millions more, Lyra confirmed. What you've seen so far is just the advance force. If the beacon activates, Earth will fall within weeks. They pulled over at a small gas station to refuel and plan. Using napkins and a pen, Tom sketched a rough map of the Area 51 facility. There's an emergency access tunnel here. He pointed to a spot several miles from the main gates. Minimal security because it's not on any official blueprints. The shadows added it after they took control of the base commander 3 months ago. And the beacon? Lyra asked. Tom drew an X deep beneath the main building complex. Sub-basement 5. That's also where they built the hive mind core. Jack studied the crude map. Even with the secret entrance, there will be guards, cameras, sensors. I can handle the technology, Lyra said. And with my powers restored, I can shield us from detection. But we'll need weapons that can hurt the shadows if they leave their hosts. What hurts them? Ultraviolet light, for one thing, Lyra said. Their physical form breaks down under intense UV radiation. Tom perked up. The storage shed at my cabin had some powerful UV lamps. My uncle used them for reptile breeding. We can't go back there, Jack said. They'll be watching the place. We don't need to. Tom reached into his pocket and pulled out a key. I have a storage unit about 20 miles from here. I keep camping gear there, including those UV lamps. For the first time since this began, Jack felt a spark of hope. Maybe they had a chance after all. As night fell, they arrived at the storage facility. Tom's unit contained exactly what they needed, 4 high-powered UV lamps, backpacks, and even some old security uniforms that might help them blend in. One more thing, Lyra said as they packed the truck. Once we destroy the hive mind, all the shadows will die simultaneously. The humans they're controlling will be free, but disoriented. It will cause chaos. Better than the alternative, Jack said. They drove through the night, heading toward the coordinates Tom had provided. By dawn, they could see the distant outline of mountains where Area 51 was hidden. We should rest, Lyra suggested. Conserve our strength for tonight. They parked in an abandoned mining site, sheltered from view by large equipment. As Tom slept, Jack and Lyra sat outside, watching the sunrise. Why did you decide to help me? Lyra asked quietly. You could have turned me in, or just walked away. Jack considered the question. At first, I just couldn't let you die in that container. It seemed wrong. He paused. Then, when I learned what was happening, I guess I realized some things are worth fighting for, even if the odds are impossible. Lyra's glow brightened slightly. My people have a saying, the universe favors the brave, not because they cannot fail, but because they dare to try. Is that why you came here? To a planet you didn't know, to save people you'd never met? Partly, she admitted. But there's another reason. Something I haven't told you yet. Jack turned to face her. What? My world was the first to fall to the shadows centuries ago, Lyra said, her voice tight with emotion. I am one of the last of my kind. The Guardians were created to ensure no other world suffers our fate. Created? Jack asked. What do you mean? Lyra held out her hand, the circuitry-like patterns glowing brighter. I am partly biological, partly technological. My people merged with our technology as the only way to fight the shadows. We became something new. You're some kind of cyborg? A simplified term, but yes. My body can interface with technology, absorb and redirect energy, and detect the shadow's unique signature. She looked at him intently. And that is why I believe humans have a chance. Your species adapts, creates, evolves. Just like mine did. Jack realized then what made Lyra different from the creatures in sci-fi movies. She wasn't here to conquer or study humans. She was here because she saw something in humanity worth saving. Get some rest, Lyra said softly. Tonight we save your world or die trying. As the sun climbed higher, Jack closed his eyes, but his mind remained active. In just a few days, his life had transformed from boring routine to a desperate mission to save Earth. And somehow, he felt more alive than ever before. Dusk painted the desert in shades of orange and purple as Jack, Lyra, and Tom approached the hidden entrance to Area 51. They wore the security uniforms Tom had provided, with Lyra's glowing skin concealed beneath long sleeves and gloves. The UV lamps were packed carefully in their backpacks. The entrance should be just beyond those rocks, Tom whispered, pointing to a formation that looked no different from the countless others dotting the landscape. Lyra closed her eyes, concentrating. I sensed 12 shadows inside the facility. 4 are near the entrance. Can you tell if they've detected us? Jack asked. She shook her head. They're focused on the beacon. The activation sequence has already begun. They made their way carefully to the rock formation. What appeared to be solid stone was actually a cleverly disguised door with a keypad hidden in a crevice. Tom punched in a code from his shadow's memories. The door slid open silently, revealing a dimly lit tunnel sloping downward. Stay close, Lyra instructed. I'll create a field around us to mask our presence from their sensors. The air around them shimmered slightly as Lyra's energy field took shape. They moved quickly through the tunnel, which opened into a wider corridor with sterile white walls typical of a government facility. This way, Tom whispered, leading them toward a service elevator. They encountered 2 guards at the elevator. Before the men could react, Lyra's eyes flashed white. The guards froze in place, their expressions blank. I've temporarily blocked their minds, she explained. They won't remember seeing us, but it won't last long. In the elevator, Tom pressed the button for Subbasement 5. As they descended, Jack's heart pounded in his chest. If they failed, humanity would never know how close they came to extinction. The doors opened to reveal a massive underground chamber. In the center stood a structure unlike anything Jack had ever seen. A black crystalline pyramid that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Around it, technicians worked at various stations, all of them moving with the telltale stiffness of shadow hosts. The hive mind, Lyra whispered. And there. She pointed to a tall pillar of swirling energy beside it. That's the beacon. It's almost fully charged. How do we destroy them? Jack asked. The UV lamps will disrupt the shadows, but to destroy the hive mind, I need to interface with it directly. Lyra's expression was grave. Once I connect to it, I can overload its systems, but what? There's a high probability I won't survive the process. Jack stared at her. There has to be another way. There isn't. This is why I was created. She squeezed his hand. When I give the signal, activate the UV lamps. That will drive the shadows from their hosts and create enough confusion for me to reach the hive mind. Before Jack could protest further, an alarm blared. A voice announced, Intruder alert! Unknown energy signature detected in Subbasement 5. They've sensed me, Lyra said. Now! Jack and Tom pulled out the UV lamps and switched them on. Brilliant purple-white light flooded the chamber. The effect was immediate. The technicians screamed in agony as black mist began pouring from their eyes, mouths, and noses. Lyra sprinted toward the pyramid, dodging the panicking humans and the writhing shadows. Jack and Tom followed, keeping the UV lamps trained on any shadow that approached. When Lyra reached the hive mind, she placed both hands on its surface. Her body glowed brighter than ever, the circuitry patterns beneath her skin pulsing rapidly. Keep them off me, she shouted as the pyramid began to vibrate. The freed humans were regaining consciousness, confused and terrified. Jack helped them toward the elevator while Tom stood guard over Lyra, UV lamp held high. The black pyramid was changing, cracks of blue light spreading across its surface. Lyra's eyes had turned completely white, her body now a conduit for massive amounts of energy. "It's working," Tom called. "The beacon is powering down." But something was wrong. Lyra's body was starting to fade, becoming transparent as more energy poured from her into the hive mind. "Lyra!" Jack ran to her side. "You have to stop. You're disappearing." She couldn't hear him. Her consciousness was inside the hive mind, fighting a battle they couldn't see. The pyramid's cracks widened, brilliant light pouring out. The remaining shadows shrieked as the light touched them, their forms dissolving into nothing. With a deafening crack, the pyramid shattered. A shockwave of energy knocked Jack and Tom off their feet. When they looked up, the hive mind was destroyed, the beacon dark and lifeless. But Lyra was gone. "No," Jack whispered, searching the debris. "She can't be." A soft blue glow caught his attention. Among the shattered remains of the pyramid lay a small crystal, pulsing with familiar blue light. Jack picked it up carefully. As soon as it touched his skin, Lyra's voice filled his mind. "I'm still here, Jack. Part of me, anyway." "Lyra? How? I transferred my consciousness into this crystal before my body was destroyed. It was the only way to ensure the hive mind would be completely eliminated." Tom joined him, staring at the glowing crystal. "Is that?" "It's her," Jack confirmed. "Or part of her. The shadows are gone." Lyra's voice continued in his mind. "Their fleet will never receive the signal. Earth is safe." "But what about you?" Jack asked, his throat tight. "My people left technology throughout the galaxy. With time, I can rebuild a body. But I'll need help." Jack looked at Tom, then at the freed humans who were beginning to gather around them, curious about the glowing crystal. "You'll have help," Jack promised. "Not just from me, but from all of humanity." As they made their way back to the surface, the crystal warm in Jack's hand, he realized that this was just the beginning. The world would never be the same, and neither would he. Humanity had faced its greatest threat and survived, not through superior weapons or technology, but because one man chose compassion over fear when he found an alien girl trapped in a container. And in doing so, he had not only saved her life but the lives of everyone on Earth. "Your people have a saying," Lyra's voice whispered in his mind. "To save one life is to save the world entire." Jack smiled. "And now we have all the time in the world to learn each other's sayings." As the first light of dawn broke over the desert, Jack held the crystal up to the sun. Its blue glow pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat, a promise of adventures yet to come.